All right. Let's get going. Okay, let's start from Bitcoin as per usual. Obviously, many things happened in the last few hours and days. I think we've been able to do quite a good job in trying to accurately predict the price action of the market using a few indicators, indexes like USDT dominance and the dominance on Bitcoin and others. We will discuss everything in a bit. Starting from Bitcoin, higher time frame, nothing has changed. Weekly divergence, monthly divergence, still there, not invalidated yet. In fact, the monthly divergence, as I said before, would take quite a lot to be invalidated, as you can see here from this. So this could literally do something like this: 120, 125. And as long as this peak doesn't pass this one here, it's still a divergence. So nothing invalidated yet. Something to keep in mind at the back of your mind. On more lower time frames, I have to say that I don't see many big signs of weakness yet. And with big signs of weakness, I mean something like at least a 4-hour bearish divergence, right? Which usually leads to bigger drops in the market. For instance, we had a 4-hour bearish divergence here and here with the RSI, and that led to this drop to 98K, so over 10%. I'm not seeing that yet. There's a possibility that a 1-hour divergence may form, although it's getting a bit too wide, but maybe something like this. And then the RSI makes a lower high. But the 1 hour, realistically speaking, is not really a time frame I use as much. I really like to use at least the 2 hour, but ideally the 4 hour. If judging from a 4 hour, and no big signs of weakness yet, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Bitcoin squeeze a bit higher in the next few days. 12-hour and daily RSI, also quite a lot of room to run. Daily specifically, nowhere close to being overbought. So I think this has room to run into price discovery in the next few days and weeks. How far that will be, that's difficult to predict, and it's not really our job to predict, because we will know that we are close to a local top whenever we see divergences forming. It's not really needed to make any prediction now. And as long as there are no big divergences to discuss, then the upside potential is still there, right? So we do not necessarily need to worry about being close to a local top. And you know that we have always discussed when the market pumped into resistance areas, right? We have always discussed bearish divergences that led to bigger drops. So I think we will catch the local top again whenever it comes. But I personally find it difficult to believe that we will see a big drop in the next few days or next few weeks. Not yet. Not yet. So we will keep monitoring this as per usual. I will give updates on my corner and on the fundamentals. And when we talk about a big drop, I mean like it like this 109, 108, 700 if given. This is not a correction. This is just a pullback, right? So when I say I don't see sign of weakness, I'm obviously referring to the higher time frame structure and higher time frame triggers. One thing that we do need to discuss on like really higher time frames is, I mean, apart from this monthly divergence on BTC that we have discussed several times, right? We do have still a weekly divergence on the dollar. Give a nice lower time frame reaction from range lows. As I said, I personally do not expect the dollar to significantly drop below these recent lows. I think the reaction towards new tariffs has shown that most factors that have led to a decline of the dollar in the last few weeks have to a certain extent been priced in. New tariffs came in. The dollar did not drop on new tariffs. It did drop before on tariff news. And that to me suggests that a few of the biggest factors that have led to the drop of the dollar have been priced in, somewhat priced in. And also from a TA perspective, it makes perfect sense to rebound from this area. I've read somewhere that hedge funds and professional asset managers have closed their short positions, and the level of short positions on the dollar is now at the lowest level since 2021. And that was exactly when the dollar bottomed, macro bottom for the last time in 2021 before going for these 2022 highs. So still leaning towards something like this in the next few weeks and months. I've said it before, I don't think that the first step of this range lows will necessarily top Bitcoin out. I think eventually investors will move more and more into the dollar, the more speculative assets, including crypto and US equities rise. And that's only logical, right? If you're up 150% on Nvidia or on Bitcoin, you can speculate that the price may drop, and you want to look for a safer asset that's still cheap, and that's the dollar. So apart from the monthly chart and monthly divergence on Bitcoin, the weekly bullish divergence on the dollar, I discussed something new today, which is another monthly bearish divergence on the S&P 500 that I recently noticed. Right here, let me just clean up the chart. Right here, the RSI is diverging. So this means that basically the index is rising but losing momentum. And we have seen that the fear and greed index is at extreme greed. And I'm personally not a buyer at extreme greed. I'm a seller at extreme greed. I'm a buyer at extreme fear. Last few instances where the monthly printed the divergence in the last few years, we got at least a 20% drop. Oh, this even more. Oh, that's not the divergence, sorry. Here, 20% drop on the S&P 500. And the last time, 26, 27. Of course, the macro was a bit different here because the Federal Reserve started hiking, right? But from a TA perspective, this is not something I ignore, and this is not something I buy into. The thing is now that this still has room to run quite a lot, right? So realistically speaking, this can still run to 6,600. And what this will lead to is that the fear and greed index will just rise even more towards extreme greed, right? But to me, having bought stocks here and having hold them until this level, or more or less until this level, 30%, these are the big returns. Even if this rises a bit more, 2, 3, 4, 5%, these are not the juicy returns to get out of stocks, in my view. At least when it comes to short-term trading, I'm not talking about long-term positions. But long story short, monthly divergence on Bitcoin, weekly divergence on the dollar, and monthly divergence on the S&P 500. I wouldn't be surprised if this would lead to some correction in speculative assets in the next few months. This is not something relevant for today or this week or this month, maybe more towards the end of the year. But I personally think as the more equities rise and the dollar remains at the macro range lows, the more people will be intrigued to take profits and look for a safe haven at the dollar. And if that happens, that will obviously also influence the price action of Bitcoin. But this doesn't mean that Bitcoin cannot rise to 115, 120, 125. It can still happen, right? This is like super higher time frame. At some point, if I was an equity investor, I would take everything out. Or if I was a Bitcoin investor, I would just sell it. and put it into a cheap dollar. And my higher time frame idea for the dollar has always been, let's even look at the monthly, has always been to take profits in speculative assets, accumulate the cheap dollar here, sell the cheap dollar here in a few years. And when this happens, I expect equities to be way lower than they are today, and I expect Bitcoin to be way lower than they are today. And here I have no reason to further hold the dollar, because it is expensive, and an expensive dollar can buy you a lot of things, right? Especially cheap assets. So I would keep this in mind. From a macro perspective, if you're a macro investor, I would keep this in mind, not to let this out of sight. Of course, on lower time frames, it's still not super relevant. We will focus level by level on the market, right? But it's always good to understand where we stand from a technical point in the market. I personally believe that if this plays out in the next few months, then we will have the end of this financial cycle, at least for crypto, sometime this year, ideally by Q4. And then I expect I wouldn't call it a bear market, because that will depend on some macro developments, like what central banks will do around the globe. But a less bullish period for sure. Crypto has been in a bull market for more or less 3 years, following this perfect downtrend from the dollar, which took 3 years to reach macro range lows. I think it will take less to get to the other side, but this is still what I would expect. So whatever I buy today, I try to swing it, of course, but it's not some like I buy something now and plan to hold it for the next few years, right? Because I understand that the financial cycle is coming to an end, maybe next month, maybe in October, November, maybe beginning of next year, but I know that we are coming closer to it. And discussing Bitcoin, the dollar, and the S&P 500 on higher time frames, to me, is just one way to explain why I think that way. Now, of course, we can go into more lower time frame, which is, I believe, more relevant to everybody else, and that's more interested in short-term trading or mid-term trading. As I said, for Bitcoin, no signs of weakness yet. 1 hour bearish divergence may form if Bitcoin can squeeze a bit higher into the Asia session, but other than that, nothing extraordinary. We can discuss a few indexes that I think have helped us a lot to navigate the market in the last few days and weeks. My favorite one, USDT dominance. I mean, this is really a cheat sheet. If you can master this one, I think you have a very easy time to navigate the market, both on lower time frames as well as higher time frames. Basically, what we have said, to just recap the price action in the last few weeks, in May, we have said that the index is printing a daily bullish divergence right here, right? And we said no buys are appropriate here. This may extend to a 3 drive, but realistically speaking, the returns from here to here are not as big if you bought, for instance, here. So the daily divergence played out and gave a full daily RSI reset. We caught this buy area here at 520, 525 a few weeks ago, and since then the index is in a downtrend. Now it looks pretty bearish, if I'm honest. In the last few days before this breakdown of this diagonal trend line, we've been saying that this 4.85% area is a resistance zone. I've obviously now deleted this resistance area because it is no longer relevant, but we did have a box here which got tested twice, right? Which was the last 2 opportunities out of 4 opportunities to position for this move. And now we got the breakdown. Now what I personally expect, we have a 1 hour bullish divergence here. But after such an explosive move, I think a 1 hour bullish divergence will not be the top of the market. We will need to see something like this here, right? Daily, or at least 12 hour, or at least 4 hour but I've never seen the market topping from a 1 hour bullish divergence on USDT dominance, which is why I don't yet expect the market to be topping out. I think we can go a bit higher, especially since we don't have major signs of weakness from Bitcoin, as I discussed previously. Now, what I want to see here is that if we get this level here, might be a bit greedy, but if we get this is a buy. This is a buy, especially if you get like a 30-minute RSI reset. A div is additional confluence. But honestly, if you get this, I wouldn't overthink it, because if you buy it like 470, maybe front run it a bit to 475, then validation for new purchases is super easy, right? Which is basically acceptance, maybe above these POCs if you want to keep it a bit looser. So that's not a lot. If you buy here and have an invalidation for spot purchases above this level here, I think that's a very tight invalidation, because if you buy here, then you at least target this level. This remains my first higher time frame target for USDT dominance. Maybe we can extend it a bit. I mean, you don't have to be that precise, right? This is more about higher time frame. But I want to see this here to take some bigger profits, some long positions. As you can see from the 4 hour, it is oversold, but oversold does not necessarily lead to an instant reversal, right? What we want to see here is maybe something like this at some point. Might not come instantly, might come instantly, but we want to see at least something like this. And then the RSI makes a divergence. So my plan now, I'm seeing a lot of FOMO in the market. Remember that FOMO is not a trigger that we used to be buying. You make yourself vulnerable if you feel FOMO. It's normal to feel FOMO, but you don't make decisions out of it. It's always good to take a step back if you missed this move and stick to technical analysis. We have been in this situation before. There was a lot of FOMO here. There was a lot of FOMO here. There was a lot of FOMO here, right? And the market doesn't move in a single direction. Just remember that. Maybe it might appear that you will miss the next bull cycle, the alt season, but that's not going to be the case. You will have plenty of opportunities to enter the market. My options here, for me, no trade zone, longs here, shorts here, obviously with the right triggers. If I don't get the right triggers, say I don't have a bull diff here and maybe a bearish divergence on Bitcoin, because that obviously leads, then I will be looking for a drop below this area here, and I'll buy a bearish retest, and we will look for the same scenario as we're looking here, because we're basically looking for a bearish retest here, right? So if a major support area is lost, you can consider it as resistance in the case of USDT dominance, and then we might even target these lows here. And yeah, you the bull market. See what I mean? You didn't miss anything. Just stick to your analysis. Don't FOMO into anything. You'll get your chance. And I just suggest that if you don't want to try and make sense of all the indexes, just stick to USDT dominance and Bitcoin. If you have a 30-minute bull diff on Bitcoin on a pullback and a 30-minute bearish divergence on USDT dominance, just go ahead and buy, because the invalidation is very easy. Looking at some other indexes, so USDT dominance gives me a good feeling that this might drop a bit more. I have a very similar feeling looking at other indexes as well. Total market cap, for instance, really nice break out of this trend line. I think if we get our target for USDT dominance, at least a move to these highs here is possible. That's cycle highs, right? Yeah, cycle highs. move here, and maybe here we can see some signs of weakness. Remember last time this index rejected or started a bigger downtrend was here on a daily bearish divergence, here on a daily bearish divergence, right? So now the daily RSI is at 63. So no higher time frame signals of weakness yet, not on the daily, not on the 12-hour. 12-hour now getting a bit overbought, but that's not a reason to top out yet. If you get a bear div, then yes, here for example, apart from the daily div, we also got a 12-hour div, right? And when you see a higher time frame divergence forming, then you start taking profits, man. You know, sentiment is usually very positive, but I don't see that yet. I'll be monitoring this here, 3.60 to 3.70 trillion. That's basically the last selling point before a new all-time high for total market cap. So place your alerts, and when this area is hit, see if some divergences are forming. If they are on higher time frames, you take some profits, maybe hold a bit in case that the divergence invalidates and this goes into price discovery. But most important than anything, don't buy here. Don't buy here. Wait for the reclaim of this area. What we will probably get is a breakout, right? And at some point you will get this retest and you buy. Other indexes look very similar. If you look at Total 2, for example, we have said in recent streams that there are no signs of weakness in Total 2 yet. Similar to total market cap, we got a daily RSI reset. Now reclaiming this trend line or breaking out. No signs of major weakness yet here. At resistance, remember in May, where we said that profit taking is appropriate. We had a daily bear div deep into overbought at the resistance area. We don't have that yet, which makes me quite positive regarding a flip of this area at some point. Obviously, as you approach this area here, you don't look for buys, you look for signs of weaknesses, right? If there are no signs of weaknesses, say the daily is still around here, no bearish divergence on the 12-hour or the daily, then you can easily speculate on a flip of this area. And if you bought lower, you say, well, yes, resistance area, but this is getting tagged for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th time, and I don't have a higher time frame bearish divergence, right? So it might not actually be the best idea to be taking profits. And if you get that, I expect at least this zone here. But remember, when I say I expect this is conditional, right? I expect it if we reclaim this zone here and if we don't have any bearish divergences forming on higher time frames. What to do if you're sidelined? You wait for this reclaim. Maybe you don't get this perfect retest, but close to it. And then the invalidation for new purchases is very easy, and then you can write it up here. Total market cap increased by 20% since Bitcoin was at 98K. This would be another 20%. So that's probably like 30-40% in altcoins. And this sounds really good, right? But will certainly depend on Bitcoin as well. So we will need Bitcoin into price discovery for this to happen. But looking at indexes, as I said, looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. No signs of weakness yet. We will be the first to discuss them if they come, but not there yet. 12-hour, no divergence. 4-hour. Now this is interesting, for example, because we could indeed get a 4-hour div at the resistance area if we get something like this, right? And if this happened at the resistance area, you know it's definitely not time to be buying. It's time to be taking some profits and maybe even some short positions. I hope that's clear. What else do we got? Dominance indexes, very important. I think we did a very good job to predict this divergence here on BTCD. Right, we set this when it was when it looked strong last month, but now also being heavily oversold, right, up to the 12-hour. So here, what could happen is that we actually get some form of 4-hour dip on BTC dominance, and that basically tells you that altcoins will lose some strength, and strength will come back to Bitcoin. If you look at others dominance, also at resistance, right, on higher time frames, no div yet, but if BTC dominance gives that dip, this will div too on the 4-hour, and then we could get a pullback on this index, and altcoins will give a pullback too. On the daily, still room to run, especially if this accepts above this area here. Remember, we talked about a bullish divergence on the daily the other day when we talked about the bearish divergence on Bitcoin dominance as well, right? And yeah, you missed the entire bull market, man. Look at this. Oh, look, you missed everything. You know what I mean? This is nothing. This is absolutely nothing. So no need to feel FOMO. Stay loyal to triggers, to charts. They will never lie to you. Others dominance. Others BTC. I've seen a very nice reclaim here. We have also talked about others BTC and the daily divergence it was making last month, right here. Right, so this others dominance and Bitcoin dominance gave us confluence that altcoins could perform a bit better in July, but remember, higher time frame, the structure is still quite bearish. I still do expect this area to be reached during the next bear market, unless this really manages to flip this zone and change structure. But realistically speaking, even if this daily divergence fully plays out, I could see us going towards this level, printing a daily bearish divergence, and then this reverses again. If this happens, you take profits on your altcoin positions. You don't ask any questions. You buy later when this divergence is invalidated. Clear? Where are the questions? Where are the comments? Bring them up. Bring them up. What else is there to discuss? I think we covered all indexes, so it should be pretty clear. I think the best index to use for buying if you get a pullback is USD dominance, as I said. Where is it? Here. Just use USD dominance. If you don't get this, then buying is too risky. I would only be buying if we come here, print this divergence, and then we look for other levels like this level here. That's better for buying. We did discuss others, right? We did discuss others dominance, but not others. I mean, guys, you didn't miss much. Of course, alts have moved, but on more higher time frames. Look at this, man. Look how far we are from March 2024 highs. 240, 250 is a very big level for me. Daily also suggests that this move is not exhausted yet on higher time frames. So if we get a flip of this level here, above 252, You can buy with a very easy invalidation target this high here, 290, 300 billion. But same as with any index, you will be looking for some bearish divergences here. Nope. At this resistance area. And if you get that, I mean, look at this. Quite interesting. I'll be monitoring this. I mean, it's not perfect, but something. But as I was saying, if you don't get a bearish divergence here on the 4-hour, then I think this level will get flipped, just like we expected total 2 and total market cap to go higher and USDT dominance to go lower. But if you see a bearish divergence forming here, you take some profits. Take some profits. But higher time frame, pretty clear. Pretty clear. This was our buy zone in April. June 22nd, our buy zone for others got front run by like 2 billion. I've changed the box now, but it was like 2 billion. And we'll see if this can break out on the daily. Oh, look at the. Looks better. Does it? Yeah. Yeah. This is interesting. This is very interesting. As I said, higher time frame, no big signs of weakness yet. We could get that 4-hour div that could slow down the growth a bit. But this is very interesting. We'll keep monitoring this step by step and level by level. Our last buy zone or support zone was 232 to 222. And we said that anything lower than 220 billion and we'll get probably this or this level here. That's not what we got. If this fails to reclaim this level, I think 236-ish is good. Anticipating another higher low. Nothing like a DB stream to bring me back to earth and reality. I'm actually sounding quite positive, right? For my circumstances. I mean, usually I'm a lot more pessimistic, but I mean, I only tell you guys what I see in the charts. And as I said, I don't see any big signs of weakness yet. I'm not talking about Bitcoin going to 300,000, right? But I'm just saying that I think there's a little bit more fuel in the market to run a bit higher, judging based on this. But it's very important to not feel anything when these moves happen. For instance, I'm in good profit in a few positions. I don't feel anything, man. I don't feel anything when I see that. I don't feel anything when the market is dropping. I know I'm not depressed. I've just managed to control emotions and only stick to charts and technical analysis. What I've recently started doing is whenever we get bigger moves, I just turn off Discord completely and Twitter and just focus on TradingView. Can you send the values for USDT dominance? Can we have a run as in April 2025? Let me check. April 2025. What one did we have in April 2025? Oh, this one. I mean, it's possible. Bitcoin is in price discovery, but I personally try to approach the market level by level. As I said, this is my first target because I don't expect USD dominance to break down from this uptrend, from this bear flag, right? Because this is to a certain extent a bear flag, and then just a bottom here. So I think at least this is possible. Here, we don't just sell, right? We look for lower time frame triggers. But I mean, if these lows here and here are lost, then as I said, my next target would be these lows here. But we will see. It depends a lot on Bitcoin and what the stock markets will do. Because remember that monthly divergence. I think that's going to be relevant at some point. And regarding the levels, just a second. So let me just clear this up. This is 4.50-ish. I cannot draw a line here. I don't know why, but this is 4.50. This is around 4.70 to 4.75-ish, 76-ish. Can I do this? Yeah. Okay. Just so you have the levels. Does that help? Melanie, DB, could you give me some advice? I'm stuck in positions in Cookie and got you, Alp. You're welcome. I'm stuck in positions in Cookie and Aero that I want to sell at break even about 10% higher than here. The reason I want to sell it, I've lost confidence in them, but I'm not sure. It's just because I made the mistake of holding when I should have. Good question, Melanie. First of all, guys, even if you enter a spot position and if it's like mid-term, long-term, you should have your invalidation on it, right? You don't need to have to hold any coin down to, let's say, 20%, unless like you have a pre-planned DCA plan, right? So you plan to buy a certain coin here and maybe then 10% higher. That's something different. But you don't hold a coin that you buy here and then it drops 20% and you're still holding it, right? Because the trigger that led you to buying it here at minus 20%, it's invalidated, right? So just a lesson for the future. What I would be doing if I was you, as I said, I do see some altcoin indexes running a bit higher in the next few days. For example, Total 2. And you can basically de-risk your positions that are underwater once we get to this level, 1.28 trillion on Total 2. Then you de-risk and then you reevaluate entries into other coins. That's what I would do. How can we learn to do that? Not feel anything. I mean, it comes with experience, man. I mean, I've been also been emotional, of course, when it comes to trading. I've had many years of trying and losing money and not making big profits. If I think, I mean, I'm not satisfied today, right? But if I think about what I expected myself to be at a year ago, this is exactly where I wanted to be. You know what I mean? Like, I think if you're ambitious and you want to learn and constantly show progress, you're never really satisfied with your progress. But if you think back, if you look at the profits you've made a year or two ago, then you see how much you've moved. But yeah, I mean, it's just from experience, man. You develop your system, and you learn to trust your system, even if it's wrong sometimes, because every system is wrong. I'm wrong as well. I'm not always right. But the thing is that the system and the risk management around it will forgive me if I'm wrong sometimes, right? As long as the risk is managed. But it will come with experience. I mean, I don't have any very concrete suggestions on how to do that. just to try and develop your system. One of the biggest reasons why I don't give out many official trades is because I'm focusing on education. If I give out trades and you just follow them blindly, you will always be dependent on me. Whereas if I focus on education, you guys will try and learn and build your system, not entirely based on my system, right? But with whatever you find appropriate. And that makes you more and more independent of our group and the traders within the group. And I think that's what you should aim for, right? To become independent traders. And I think at some point you will see your system improving and improving and getting better and better and bringing you better and better results. And when that happens after years maybe of trading, then you will start more and more to listen to your system and not to the sentiment in the market. So I think that's the best way to learn it, to control emotions, and by losing money, right? If you fall into positions based on no trigger, and then you just lose money, I think that's also a lesson learned. And if you do that multiple times, then after some time, you will basically understand that foam is not the solution to anything. I've been just a regular member, man, in Wealth Group. I joined like 3 years ago, over 3 years ago. I was just a member like you, and I never stopped learning until one day I got offered the role here, and it's almost been 2 years since I've started. But what I'm trying to say is, if I made it, then you can too. Just be patient, try to learn, try to improve. Always question what you do. When it's good, when it's bad, when you made profits, understand why you made profits. When you don't make profits, try to understand what went wrong, and try not to replicate the same mistake at some point. All right. Anything else? Is there anything macro related that you want me to look at, guys? Sui, we've been discussing this last week. I did give out an official call. Messed it up by closing it break even because I got spooked by a Binance wick that I didn't want it to get fully filled, but higher time frame idea remains the same. I think this has broken a nice trend. We were among the first in fundamentals to identify this. We claimed a big area here, and I think it goes into a breakout now. And here again, no major signs of weakness. I mean, of course, the 4 hours heavily overbought, which is why I wouldn't buy it here. But if you get like a 4-hour div in any of these POCs, especially around 340, then I would take some off if you're in the position. SPX, I was looking at this a bit earlier. I'm probably gonna buy some spots soon. Might be a bit too greedy. But if I get this, I'll be buying some SPX on Bybit. Nice breaker of this resistance, nice POC confluence, 1 month POC at 1.35. So if we do get that pullback and that bounce from USDT dominance, as I explained, I think this is really nice with a very easy invalidation. There are some POCs here that can front run it. So we'll need to see if there's some lower time frame triggers. But if you get this, this is a good buy. Really good buy. Is there anything else, guys? Or else I think we can wrap it up. We do have a Q&A on Tuesday regarding my strategy. If there's anything unclear from the latest strategy workshop, then you will have your chance to ask me a few questions there that will be only related to the strategy. There's a recording on our announcements, that you can look at. But I've noticed that there's still questions regarding my strategy on the fundamentals. So Tuesday will be your time, 4 p.m. Central European time, 10 a.m. Eastern. So write that down. Chat's been quiet. Are you enjoying profits or are you sidelined? Be honest. I see SpongeBob in there. How you doing? Sidelined? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. You'll get your chance. You're in big profits in SPX. Nice. Charting for the next move. I know you're charting, Rag. You don't miss any level. Profits, nice. I'm sidelined because your mom's distracting me. At least you're having fun outside of the market, Tupi. Yeah, 4.78 for USDT dominance would be nice. I'm not super confident we get it, because usually when an index like USDT dominance breaks down from such an uptrend or bear flag, it just instantly nukes and reaches support areas, like here, for example. We had the very similar scenario, right? Uptrend and broke down, barely gave any retest. I mean, you could have bought here and here, but it's not like deep pullbacks. But if we get it, then yeah, the invalidation here would be super easy. We'll see what Bitcoin gives. All right, guys. Shall we wrap it up? I think we discussed everything. Everything should be clear. No major signs of weakness. Maybe next week we can discuss some signs of weakness, some more higher time frame bearish divergences. Maybe even at this level here. If the market is really moving a lot, then I'll do a stream on Saturday or Sunday, and we can discuss everything. Next week I will be on vacation, actually, starting Wednesday, so I won't be streaming on Wednesday and Thursday. But I have my Monday stream, with my solo stream on Monday and the Q&A on Tuesday. So still some opportunity to give updates. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Stay safe trading. Let me know on the fundamentals if there's anything. And thank you for joining. Have a wonderful day. Yeah. Be prepared for a dip next week when I'm on vacation. You better be taking profits. Take care, guys. Have a nice day. Appreciate it, Silnox. Thank you.